Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Rachel. In my last video, I gave 5 reasons why you should add solo travel to your bucket list. And today I'm going to go more in depth about the pros and cons of solo traveling. I just want to say too, even though I'm going to talk about some of the downsides, solo travel is amazing and you should definitely do it if it's something that you've been putting off. First, I'm going to go over the pros, and some of these are things I touched on in my last video, but I'm going to try to go a little bit more in depth. One of the things that I absolutely love about solo travel is the freedom and flexibility. Because you're making the decisions, writing the schedule and the itinerary, everything is based on your interests and your time schedule. So for instance, if you're an early bird, you can get up early and get out and start doing things early in the day before everyone else is crowding the tourist attractions. And you also get to go at your own pace. So if you're someone who goes through museums really slowly and kind of soaks in all of the pieces, you can do that. Or maybe you like to just sit back and relax at the beach, you can do that. Whatever it is that you want to do is your itinerary and your trip, and you don't have to deal with other people kind of being like, oh no, let's go do this, or trying to maybe rush through other things. And kind of going with that, you don't have to wait on other people. So like I said, if you're an early bird, you don't have to wait for other people to get ready in the morning. When I was traveling with my dad, I was always annoyed because he always had to have a coffee in the morning. And he usually wouldn't make a coffee. He had to go find a coffee shop or something, which is kind of hard when you're maybe in the middle of nowhere. So that always kind of got on my nerves. But when I travel alone, I don't have to deal with that. I can just get ready in the morning real quick and get out and get going. I also love the feeling of empowerment and confidence that I get when I solo travel. And I think a lot of people get that feeling when they do it as well, because you're out there doing all the problem solving, figuring things out, and just traveling alone. Like, you got this. You get in this mindset and you're just able to travel. Like I said in my other video, I don't really know how to explain it that much, and if you have solo traveled before, you can probably understand, but you just gain so much insight into yourself and gain confidence when you are traveling alone, and that's definitely one of the top pros for me when it comes to solo travel. Tying into that, you also get more time for self-reflection when you're by yourself. You can kind of sit back, absorb the experience, and kind of just think about where you are in the world, what you're doing, and all that fun stuff. The last pro I'm going to talk about doesn't really apply to me, but when I Googled pros and cons of solo travel, it did come up a lot. So if you're an extrovert, especially, this one will apply to you, and that is meeting more people when you solo travel. Usually if you travel with someone, you're usually conversing with them, hanging out with them the whole time. But when you're by yourself, it kind of opens you up to be more approachable and to meet other people as you travel. Like I said, this doesn't apply to me because I'm really introverted and shy. I wish I wasn't. I wish I could strike up a conversation and meet people as I travel. Maybe one day I could reach that point, because I mean, there was a point where I never thought I'd be able to solo travel. So maybe I will be able to make friends as I travel one day as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But as of right now, I'm still pretty much in my shell about, striking up conversations. I do talk to people a little bit, but usually only like if I have to, or if I'm purchasing something like that. But when you're alone and you're an extrovert, it kind of makes it easier to strike up a conversation with someone at a restaurant or at a bar or wherever it is you are. Now it's time for the cons. And like I said, don't let the cons get you down, because some of them can be worked around or really aren't that bad, and it just kind of depends on the situation as well. If solo traveling is something you are really wanting to do, you just have to open your mind to it and go out and do it, and don't let these cons hold you back. But you should know, of course, that there are some cons to solo traveling. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Number one, the worst con of solo travel or travel in general is the expense. Usually when you travel with someone, you can split some of the costs, like the hotel room, or if you are renting a vehicle and maybe some groceries or whatever it is, you can split those costs. When you are traveling alone, however, you have to pay for everything. Not to say that solo travel is 100% going to be more expensive, because you can book cheaper accommodations maybe that are smaller for only one person and save some money that way. When I'm not solo traveling, I usually travel with my mom or my dad, and I actually pay for a lot of the trip usually, Like the accommodation, I usually pay for the whole thing. Even the plane tickets I usually pay for. So when I solo travel, I actually do end up saving some money in that regard. Another solo travel con is that you don't have anyone there to share the experience with and make memories together. And maybe that sounds kind of sappy, but it is nice to have someone with you to make those memories and kind of experience it. And then you can talk about it later and you just have, you know, this experience that you shared, which is really great when you are traveling together. When you're solo, not so much. I, of course, vlog and I'm able to share the trip that way, but not having someone there in the moment is kind of a drawback. And I do kind of get lonely, which is another con of solo travel. There is homesickness, especially towards the end of the trip, but you just kind of have to persevere through the loneliness and know that you're just out here living your best life and you gotta just do it. Another major con is that everything is all on you. There's no one there to help you plan or brainstorm if something goes wrong. You have to be able to figure it out, problem solve, be quick on your feet, all of that, which isn't to say that things always go wrong and that you always have to be like ready for something to happen. But maybe just kind of figuring out like the metro stations or, you know, time schedules or making sure you have the ticket for the attraction or whatever, you know, that's all on you. You have all the responsibility, which can kind of be overwhelming at sometimes, but as long as you are level-headed and able to figure things out as you go, solo travel really isn't that hard. You also have to be more cautious when you're a solo traveler, especially, unfortunately, if you're a woman. You just have to pay attention to your surroundings, make sure you keep safety as a top priority. And that goes even if you are with another person, but when you're alone, you do have to make sure you are a little bit more cautious and pay attention because, again, like I said, it's all on you, all the responsibility. And that goes with also making sure you are safe. I have never felt in danger or scared when I have traveled, which is great. And I always make sure I go to places that are rated safe for solo women travelers. Just Google it and you can find out easily if a certain city or country is, you know, considered safe. One of the things I do for my safety is I just don't go out at night usually, and I also stay in the more touristy, populated areas of the city. The next con is that you don't have as much luggage space. So when you're traveling with someone, you can maybe stick some of your stuff in their bag if you end up not having room. For instance, when I went to Iceland, I put my hiking boots in my dad's bag because I didn't have any room in any of my luggage. But when you are traveling alone, you have to make sure that you prioritize your luggage and only pack the stuff you need and kind of, you know, Tetris it if you have to, I guess, to make sure you are able to fit everything. And another luggage thing is that like when you're at the airport or wherever, you're in charge of your luggage. You can't leave it with someone while you go to the restroom. You have to take it with you, which is really annoying. And just no one can watch your stuff at any time. You always have to make sure you're watching your stuff, take it with you. And the last con of solo travel that I'm going to talk about is that there's no one to take your photo. And yeah, sometimes I use a tripod to take my self-portraits, but it is still easier if someone's there standing next to your tripod because I'm always kind of nervous about walking away from my camera, especially in cities, because I don't want it to get knocked over or taken or anything like that. But it is just so much easier to take photos when you have someone to take the photo of you. And also vlogging is easier when you have someone to, you know, do some of the shots for you, but you have to just make do when you're by yourself. Either use a tripod or a timer and kind of figure out how to take photos, or just take a selfie like that, the old-fashioned way, I guess, instead of having someone take a photo for you. All right, so those are all of my pros and cons for solo travel. If you have any others that you want to add, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And like I said at the end of my last video, if you have never solo traveled, what is the main thing that is holding you back? Is it one of the cons on this list, or is it just something else? Do you have some fear, anxiety about solo travel? Make sure you watch the other video about solo travel if you haven't already, and go ahead and like, subscribe, and have an awesome day. Okay, bye.